They called me a monster. But monsters aren't born. They're built. Built from betrayal, from silence, from the kind of loneliness that forces you to study people instead of trust them. I wasn't cruel. I was precise. Cruelty is chaos. Precision is power. I didn't scream to be heard. I whispered, and still the room leaned in. Fear? Fear was never the goal. It was the byproduct. You don't have to scare people when you know how to control what they fear. This isn't a confession. This is a blueprint. For the overlooked, the underestimated, the quiet ones tired of playing fair in a game rigged against them. For those who are done asking for permission to exist loudly. You don't need to raise your voice to raise your influence. You need to learn how to move without being seen, and win without being blamed. That's what this is. Not a motivation speech, a transformation ritual. If you're not ready, turn back. But if you stay, by the end of this, you won't just understand power, you'll become it. I learned early that the loudest person in the room is rarely the one in charge. Noise is camouflage for the insecure. It's a desperate attempt to be noticed by people who don't even matter. So I went silent. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I chose who deserved to hear me. While they chased attention, I chased observation. I listened. I watched the way people flinched when they lied, how their voice changed when they needed something, how their eyes shifted under pressure. I learned that silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Every moment I didn't speak gave me information. Every pause made them reveal more than they wanted. They called it passivity, but it wasn't passivity, it was positioning. The lion doesn't roar when it's hunting. It waits, it stalks, and when it moves, it ends things. That's what I became. A silence that made people nervous, a calm that disoriented chaos. Because when you stop giving your energy away, you stop being predictable. And when you're not predictable, you become dangerous. France, 1600s. A time of kings and war, of politics played with swords and secrets. And in the middle of it all, one man, who wore robes instead of armor, controlled it all. Cardinal Richelieu, a priest, but not a preacher, a tactician, a manipulator, a ghost with more influence than the king himself. He didn't need a throne. He built his power behind it. He understood that influence wasn't about being seen, it was about being felt. He planted ideas in rooms he never entered. He created enemies for people without lifting a blade. And his motto? Give me 6 lines written by the most honest man, and I will find something in them to hang him. That's not cruelty, that's precision. He didn't need armies. He weaponized words, secrets, silence. He understood what most never do. Control isn't about force, it's about positioning. He wasn't loud, but his silence ran empires. I let them think I was shy, quiet, passive, but it was intentional. People fear what they can't understand, and they hate what they can't control. Silence is misinterpreted by the insecure. They'll call you weak, cold, distant. Let them, because while they obsess over your quiet, they're revealing everything about themselves. They'll talk too much to fill the gap. They'll try to provoke you just to make sure you're still reacting. That's when you win. When they expose themselves trying to expose you. I didn't lack emotion, I just stopped renting it out. They wanted me angry so they could feel superior. They wanted me needy so they could feel important. Instead, I gave them indifference. And you know what happens when someone can't get a reaction from you? They spiral. People don't want connection, they want control. And when you deny them that, you become a riddle they never saw. He wasn't royal, he wasn't clean, he wasn't educated, but Grigory Rasputin became the most powerful man in Russia without ever wearing a crown. How? He didn't conquer, he captivated. He didn't control armies, he controlled emotions. He made the royal family need him. He convinced them he had divine healing powers. Whether it was true didn't matter, because belief is more powerful than truth. He didn't shout his influence, he made others whisper about it. and whispers become legends. He made himself indispensable, not by dominating, but by making others dependent. He created a psychological addiction, and you can't kill an addiction by removing the addict. You have to remove the need. Rasputin understood. Real control is when people defend you, even when you're the reason they suffer. He died eventually, but the myth, that still lingers. I used to think power came from force, from being faster, louder, stronger. But the older I got, the clearer it became. If you can't control your own emotions, someone else will. Every outburst you have, it's a lever they can pull. Every insult that lands, it's a string they can tug. So I stopped reacting. I started responding, selectively, surgically. If they insulted me in front of others, I smiled. That smile wasn't weakness, it was calculation. Because nothing disturbs an insecure mind more than being ignored by the person they tried to provoke. They want to fight? Give them stillness. They want chaos? Give them calm. They want to be seen? Disappear. Control isn't about resisting your emotions. It's about reprogramming them. Until your presence feels untouchable. Until your enemies second guess whether they ever even had an effect on you. There are 3 tools. They're quiet, invisible, and lethal. First, delay. Don't respond right away. Let their question linger. Let the silence build. Tension is power, because people hate uncertainty. And when you become that uncertainty, you dominate their emotional state. Second, deflection. Never answer directly. Someone asks, "What are you planning?" You say, "What makes you think I need a plan?" Turn every question into an answer they regret asking. This doesn't confuse them. It destabilizes them. Third, disappearance. Be visible, then vanish. Don't ghost out of weakness, ghost out of strategy. Disappear mid-conversation, miss the party, delay the reply. Withdraw from the stage just long enough to make people wonder. People value what they think they're losing. And your absence, if done right, should echo louder than your words ever did. Use these tools with subtlety, not to destroy people, but to protect your peace. Because power doesn't always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like disappearing, just long enough to become legendary. Some speak often and are rarely remembered. Others speak rarely and are studied for decades. Naval Ravikant is the latter. He doesn't posture. He doesn't chase attention. He waits, builds, thinks, then drops a single sentence that shifts how people view success forever. He's not loud. He's lethal. He teaches that the most valuable leverage isn't money, it's clarity. Clarity of thought, clarity of action, clarity of who you are and what you will never do. Play long-term games with long-term people. That's not just advice, that's a war strategy. Because when you move slow, think long, and remain detached, the world plays checkers. You play chess blindfolded, and still win. Most people can't sit in a room alone for 10 minutes without grabbing their phone. They can't face their thoughts, so they run from them. But I didn't run. I sat. I listened. At first, it was brutal. The silence was loud. My own thoughts felt like enemies. But eventually, something shifted. The silence became mine. It stopped screaming and started teaching. I learned who I was, what I wanted, what I would never tolerate again. Solitude wasn't isolation. It was preparation. Because when you master being alone, you stop fearing abandonment. You stop begging for access. And that's when you become dangerous. Because the man who returns from solitude isn't the same one who went in. He's sharper, colder, focused, and unshakable. Let me ask you something. Who owns your time? Who controls your attention? Who decides your reactions? If the answer isn't you, then let's be honest. You're not powerful. You're being played. Not with chains, not with bullets, with something far more effective. Psychology. They don't need to imprison your body. They just need to hijack your focus, keep you distracted, reactive, addicted. Power in this age isn't about dominance, it's about direction. And if someone else is deciding where your mind goes, then you've already lost the war before it started. You want to become untouchable? Start small. Day 1, cut your words in half. Speak 50% less. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Watch who fumbles trying to fill the gap. Day 2, for 24 hours, show no emotional reaction. No highs, no lows. Stay centered. People will try to crack you. Let them fail. Day 3, disappear. No announcement, no explanation. Just go silent. See who notices, who panics, who shows their true face. You're not playing games. You're measuring gravity. How heavy is your presence? How disruptive is your silence? That's the test. This is the blueprint. And you're the experiment. You didn't come here for comfort. You came for clarity. So let's make something clear. Power doesn't come from affirmations. It comes from awareness, from knowing exactly who you are and what parts of you are weapons. Your silence, your control, your ability to walk away. These are sharper than any sword. You don't need more noise. You need more precision. You need less talking and more targeting. You need calm dominance, not chaotic ambition. You don't need to be the soldier anymore. It's time to become the strategist. They called me a tyrant, but I never forced anyone to obey. I just became the silence they couldn't ignore. If you made it this far, you're not ordinary. You've seen behind the curtain, and if something inside you stirred, don't ignore it. Hit subscribe, not for more motivation, but for mental weaponry.